Just real quick, right before we do Travis's thing, we're gonna do a quick introduction of the canine dog so they can get him home.
Sure.
Because he's trained all day.
I wonder what the barking was.
Yes, that was the barking.
Good, thanks a lot, that's all I had that much.
I'll look it up, I'll see if I have it.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I call the city council meeting to order. It's about 4 minutes after 6 p.m. As a reminder, if everyone could please turn off or silence your electronic devices, and if we could please stand for a pledge of allegiance to the flag and an invocation by Councilmember Pogorlich. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Thank you. Dear God, we ask that you look over us as we conduct our business for the city and our citizens tonight. We ask for your blessings on those that have been and will be impacted by Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. Guide us to serve our residents with cooperation and in the best interest of our community. Help us to work together to find common ground to issues that are facing our amazing city. Help us to recognize opportunities and work through difficulties as we conduct city business. We ask that you keep us close and that you protect us and those in Texas and Louisiana and other areas that may become impacted from evil. And we ask that you watch over those serving in our military, protecting our freedoms, and helping those in need, which you have blessed us with. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
It is a reminder that if you wish to be heard on an item that's not on the agenda, you can turn in a form to the city clerk on my left. The forms are in the back by the door. Our first item here is recognitions, proclamations, presentation, and board appointments. Before we get into that, I believe Chief Albano has a special pre-meeting presentation for us this evening. Chief.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Boss and members of the City Council. I've nearly been your chief for 9 years, be 9 years in December. And during that time, while I haven't had the privilege to introduce you personally to every new officer, I have had the privilege to introduce you to every new canine officer. And so I certainly did not want to let Stitch go by without having the opportunity to let his handler, Senior Police Officer Scalabro, come forward, introduce you to Stitch and tell you a little bit about why we've moved in this direction. And I can tell you it's more cost effective, and it certainly creates a better opportunity for us to have firsthand training in the hands of our handlers. So without further ado, I introduce you to our newest canine, Stitch.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Stitch. We were fortunate enough to have some donations, one through some citizens of the city of Temple Terrace were kind enough to donate some money. And we also received some funds from the Tampa Bay Kennel Club, which helped purchase Stitch. As far as the chief had mentioned, if we would get a regular full-grown patrol dog, it's an upwards to 10 grand to 11 grand. We spent $1,500 on Stitch, and the benefits of having Stitch or a puppy is he's being trained to my commands already. He's already being bonded with myself, and he's also being socialized with the public and stuff like that. So you're more than welcome to pet him and all that good stuff there. But this is Stitch. He's 12 months old. Correction, he's 12 weeks old. His dad was a Belgian Malinois, and mom is a Dutch Shepherd. They're both imports from Belgium. And so basically he's a half-breed. A lot of the departments are going to half-breeds now, either German Shepherd and Belgian Mals or vice versa. He's a handful. He's more Malinois than he is Dutch Shepherd, but he's a regular puppy, but he rides with me to work now. I put a divider in my patrol vehicle, so Canine Aramis stays with me, my regular patrol dog, and then Stitch is getting acclimatized to riding in the patrol vehicle and getting used to lights and sirens and stuff like that. So, and as you can see, he's a Mal. The benefits for the public or for the citizens of Temple Terrace is it's cost effective, and the dog is going to be trained. So when I get ready to go to canine school, I only have to attend 2 weeks and get certified, and I'm right back out on the street. Whereas if I would have gotten a full-grown dog, I would have had to been there, would have been attending training anywhere from 3 to 4 months. So that would have been 3 to 4 months that you didn't have an officer on the street. So the turnaround's a lot quicker as far as with him. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the neck sometimes because he is a puppy and, you know, and I had to get used to having a puppy again. But anyway, I didn't want to take too much of the city council's time, but do I have any questions, ladies and gentlemen? I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, when I go to the back, you can definitely take up their time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Officers Scalaro and Stitch. I do appreciate everyone's indulgence. Both the officer and the K-9 have worked all day today, so he was going to come out here later in the meeting, but he's tired and it's time to go home. Yes.
Thank you.
You just want to say it right now?
Yeah, please.
And we have another quick announcement regarding this.
I just wanted to let everybody know while everybody's still here. For those of you that have children in school, Hillsborough County School Board will be making an announcement by the end of the day tomorrow as to whether or not schools will be open or closed Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So they're expected to make that decision by close of business tomorrow. So be on the lookout. I'm sure they'll be on Facebook and Twitter and every place else, so it won't be hard to find if you're looking for it. Thank you.
It was good to get in while the crowd's still
Yeah.
awake.
Yep.
All right. We have, as I said, recognitions, proclamations, presentations, and board appointments. Item A is a certificate of recognition for Travis Malloy, 2017 Citizen of the Year. Councilmember Donahue will read and present the certificate of recognition to Mr. Malloy.
You know, and the rule of entertainment is don't participate with children and animals. So now we've had a dog and an announcement about the school. So with that, it is my pleasure to let you know that in all the years that the Chamber of Commerce has been awarding the Citizen of the Year, it's been based on nominations from citizens, and the winners have been involved in the schools, they've been involved in churches, they've been involved in organizations, and each and every one added to the fabric of our city. And, you know, we claim that we're amazing, and this is one of the very reasons why we are amazing. So let me tell you just a little bit about the Citizen of the Year. Travis Malloy, who is the quiet farmer, as he refers to himself, and another group, a group of people got together to put together the community garden. And once that garden was in place, and they had volunteers who were organized and who showed up with the assistance of the city to provide the space at River Hills Park, that garden then grew and changed and grew. They outgrew it, and they moved to an additional community garden, which was the garden at Greco Middle School. And that garden not only brought people into the school, which was also a wonderful thing for Greco Middle School, because then people were actively engaged in the school and at the school, but that also brought people out who started a change in the curriculum at Greco Middle School. So what a catalyst those two gardens were. Well, as if that, you would think that would be enough. I mean, what are we, 7 square miles? A third garden called the Edible Garden at Linwood Park was started, and with that, with a strong emphasis on the neighbors who could walk to the park. There's no parking at Linwood Park, so you have to be able to walk to the park to do your harvesting and your building. So now we have 3 locations where citizens can come and grow their own vegetables and meet and get to know each other and live, help with their healthy lifestyle. But Mr. Malloy, Travis, quiet farmer, also wanted it to be available to others, and so he started the farmers market, again, in partnership with the city. So if you have not been to the farmers market on a Saturday morning, shame on you, but I suggest that you do go any Saturday morning. They're open every single Saturday morning, and the good news about this farmers market is the rule of thumb is if you grow it, you can sell it. All of this has been done under the guidance of Travis Malloy. So I would like to read to you, in recognition of the 2017 Citizen of the Year presented this day to Travis Malloy in recognition of his outstanding service to our community by working to help set up our city's community gardens, the Temple Terrace Farmers Market, and participating in the Temple Terrace Garden Club and local Cub Scout pack. And this day, 5th of September, we'd like to recognize you and give you this beautiful award that is being presented by the Chamber of Commerce. So thank you.
Let them, and then I'll take mine over here. Right here, please, on 30. 1, 2, 3. Let's do that again, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
You, Mr. Malloy, if you would like to address anybody?
Oh, sure, quickly. I just wanted to say that I'm a bit of a figurehead of the group. You know, it's a big, wide group, and I've been lucky enough to be at the top and answer the questions, and I believe in it pretty strongly, local food, so I don't mind getting out of my shell a little bit and being the figurehead of it. So nothing I've done is by myself. It's been a big group of volunteers. So I'm just thrilled to be able to bring it to Temple Terrace. I really enjoy the work, and so it's no work at all. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the city always appreciates the spirit of volunteerism. For item B, we have a presentation from Catherine Egan, Heart CEO, and she will provide us an update on the Heart Mission Max project, Service Realignment Initiative. Ms. Egan.
And thank you, members, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council for having me this evening, and Councilwoman, I'm going after a dog, the schools, and the Citizen of the Year. So, and I'm talking about buses, so there we go. I did want to chime in on Councilman Begorlich's point. Heart is your evacuation partner for transportation needs. We run regular service until the county implements the evacuation plans. Then Heart is transportation free of charge for patrons to the evacuation centers in Hillsborough County. If shelters accept pets, you can bring them on the vehicles in a cage. And notably for our patrons with paratransit, our patrons with disabilities, no one will be left stranded. So if we take you to an appointment and the storm hits, we'll be there to get you and get you home safely. And I can't imagine the storm will be any worse than being stuck at home with my 2 small children, so that's what we have. Thank you again for having me this evening. I'm happy to come out to you again. Since I've been in the CEO role, I've come out every year to come talk to you. It's always a delight to be in Temple Terrace. We will be talking a little bit today about the changing universe of transit and transportation and how your county transit agency is staying proactive to make sure we're making the best use of our public dollars. And where do I nod to get the slides advanced? Do I have a clicker? I don't have a clicker.
No, do you have a thumb drive?
I don't.
This isn't a PowerPoint, right?
I think it is.
What you sent me? No.
Well, a good thing we have paper copies.
Here we go. It's starting.
There you go.
Good thing I lied.
It won't work if it's not a PowerPoint.
Okay. So we are talking a little bit today about our Mission Max. That's our brand we have, modernizing and aligning for excellence in transit and transportation. We have not overhauled our service network here in Hillsborough County since 2003. My life is different from 2003. I lived in Dallas, but we have new grocery stores. We have new neighborhoods. We have rideshare technology. We have a lot going on with transit and transportation, and it was time to be responsive with this. Beyond that, nationally, we're seeing a change in usage of public transit, which means fewer folks are riding the bus, which means declining fare revenues. And at the same time, other costs were going up. So to be responsive with our taxpayer dollars in Hillsborough County, it was time to overhaul service and come back with some recommendations of where to go. So the goals for our analysis were to improve existing rider travel times. When we spoke with our patrons, they said they wanted to go on a straighter trip that would be faster for them. Folks said they were willing to walk a couple of blocks if they would have frequent service, and they wanted better connections around the region. And so now I'm gonna nod. I can do the clicker. I'm very sorry, Ms. Mooney. Thank you. We did an awful lot of research. We hired Tyndall Oliver and Associates. It's a Florida-based planning firm. They did a complete review of all of our data. It's going quickly. That's great. We had them look at population and employment trends. What was the access for transit? It's going very fast. It's, you weren't joking about your 15-minute limit, were you? We looked at all the local and regional travel plans. We also looked around the country, what was going on in Kansas City, St. Louis, Jacksonville, the cities that we think we're like and the cities that we know we're actually like. A point to make, we fund transit in Hillsborough County to the same level as Boise, Idaho, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and Macon, Georgia. Who said good Lord? It's interesting. Now, I would say, I think this is a testimony to what your staff is doing to do loaves out of fishes, but we don't have a lot of money to put everywhere, so we have to be extra careful with where it goes. We ended up doing, this is a calendar of all the meetings we did. We did a bunch of online engagement as well. We ended up getting comment from over 22,000 people in some way, shape, or form. Because this is something that touches a lot of lives. It touches employers, it touches patrons. Where could we go with that information? Based on the outreach on proposals and where we went, we landed on an overhauled service network, which is a cleaning up of the spaghetti map, not of a hurricane, but that was our transit network, which will be the next slide. Now it's taking longer. I apologize. So here we go. You see on the left, a very busy map with a lot of lines really close to each other, north-south, but not east-west. We always hear from our friends at Temple Terrace, how do I get to the airport? For instance, how do we get east-west? So what you see on the right side is a cleaned up map. What you don't see on there is an outline of where we have our rideshare zones. That's on the next slide. We did not wait for Uber and Lyft to end up regulated here in Hillsborough County. They didn't really want to do that, I think is an easy way to say that. And what is transit about? Transit is about equity. If you call a rideshare company, they won't be there in half an hour at 4 a.m. They won't take cash. They won't let you make a phone call, and they can't guarantee accessibility for a service animal, a wheelchair, et cetera. It was not acceptable to us. So we went out with our own type of rideshare. We introduced it last November. That's called Hyperlink. It's been very popular, and I'm happy to announce that October 8th, we'll have almost all of the city of Temple Terrace connected on this. This means a straight shot to USF, a straight shot to the telecom corridor, and starts working on that east-west connection. Folks can call us or use the app. It will be $1 per trip. That's something else we've changed to make this more accessible. We wanted to make sure that we could build some new connections. Once we've got ridership data, we'll plug this back into future plans to see, should we put some buses on the street? Should we continue with these non-traditional solutions? So I did want to stress that virtually the entire city of Temple Terrace is covered with this rideshare. It does hub, or it will hub out of the city hall here. We'll get folks over to USF. And when you're hearing from patrons on the 57, this covers almost every single stop that was on Route 57. So instead of these folks paying $2 to ride the bus, it will be $1 to connect into the network. Something else that we're continuing to offer, everyone who is a patron of our service for folks with disabilities will continue to retain service to their home. We will grandfather them in. If they move to the Notassasa, we will not continue to offer that. But if they're staying in the same home and making the same trip, we will continue to observe that. Temple Terrace is about 1.79% of our ad valorem revenue, and with the schedule change, we'll get about 2.1% of our service. So it's a little bit above there. But folks don't care. Folks just need to get their trip from point A to point B. So what you see zoomed in on this map, and I have ledger size, is Temple Terrace. You see your city hall and the services in the area. It does clean it up. For instance, the routes going to USF will not be going through the campus. They'll be going alongside the campus. Had a conversation last week with the folks at USF to try to kick off the process of a conversation on how to get Bull Runner over here to the Temple Terrace Park and Ride. Wanted to make sure that if the perception was Hart didn't want them here, we would love them to be here. And we will keep Councilwoman Donahue plugged in on what's going on through our board, but we'll see how much we can facilitate that conversation. We don't operate Bull Runner, but we should all be good neighbors, I think is the easiest way to put it. And again, some maps of the hyperlink zone. We've actually moved our Carrollwood zone over to the Temple Terrace area to make sure that we have the coverage here. And it's an app, you can get it on Android, you can get it on iPhone. The first week it was running, we sent, I want to say, a stretch limo to pick somebody up for dialysis. They were over the moon about this, so it's a good way to provide accessibility. Hart pays, will pay $9 a head. If a bus has fewer than 6 or 7 people on it, this is a much more cost-effective solution. We go with a private partner, Transdev International. They have 20,000 vehicles worldwide. They chose to do the level 2 background check and the full insurance as though these were cabbies, so the market made that choice. And this way we keep your tax dollars where it makes sense. We do great bread and butter bus service. Our private partner can do something really interesting for us, brings you better service into Temple Terrace and the county, more cost-effective. And just a couple of slides. The Innovation Alliance believes very strongly in the hyperlink concept, so they led the effort of getting private donations to lease Tesla Model X vehicles. These will be coming over to Temple Terrace in our part of the fleet. They are 100% privately funded, I want to stress that, primarily through Tico Energy. These are electric vehicles. They are completely autonomy ready when the time comes, but let's be honest, they're just kind of cool. And they will be coming over to Temple Terrace to get you to your apartment, to get you to your appointments. The closest I will ever be to being in a Tesla is taking this to Starbucks. But again, it's electric, so it's a clean vehicle. We'll get a lot of really great data out of this. We have charging stations already built, and it's 100% funded through the Innovation Alliance. Other folks will get a Dodge Caravan, still a very clean vehicle. Our vendor can size up the fleet if necessary. But it's exciting that our private partners believe strongly enough in this to invest. Oh, and that's Representative Castor in this top picture, so trying to make sure we got our federal attention. So just a snapshot of where we'd like to be in 10 years. On the next slide, anything in red is 15-minute frequency. Orange is 20-minute frequency. Starting this October, we will have one route at 12 minutes, one route at 15, and then 2 or 3 at 20-minute frequency. Our goal here is for folks in this urban area to get this fast service. You see the green and the pink, those are other circulators, trying to match up supply and demand and the right tool. Other things that we are moving into, we want to remind folks, we will be making an award in September. Our board will be making an award. If our Monday meeting is canceled, the 11th, it will be September 25th, for the first autonomous pilot program run by a transit agency fully in the country. It's a DOT grant. It will be running on Marion Transitway downtown. And based on how this works, we'll be deploying this throughout the county. So some exciting stuff that your humble transit agency is leading on. The next slide will be a snapshot of some other partnerships. Megabus and Red Coach come into downtown Tampa. So if you've got a college kid who needs to get to a campus, look for that. They pay us money we use for landscaping. We partner with Signal Outdoor. Every shelter you see with an advertisement is privately operated. We make about $379,000 a year on that, and they maintain 300 shelters. Better use of your tax dollars. We were the first transit agency in the state to go to compressed natural gas. We have some pretty prestigious environmental certifications, and frankly, the less we consume, the less we have to purchase. It's been great for our budget as well. So just a snapshot of some of the stuff that we've done that's dynamic. We try to create a position where when transit innovations are coming in the industry, it makes sense for folks to come to Tampa Bay, and we can reap those benefits. And the next slide is just some photographs of some different partnerships which we have as well. Folks who do not want to book in advance, who are on our paratransit service in the entire county, can take a yellow cab. It's a much more responsive service, and we pay the fare for an 8-mile trip. So just some of the things we're doing to try to be more flexible, innovative, and bring a different type of transit to our meetings. And then the next slide will show you just the Regional Transit Feasibility Study, which you may have heard about. This is also funded by FDOT. We have had 55 studies in Tampa Bay to tell us what to do with transit. Does it feel like we've done anything about it? My feelings are not hurt if you say no. We have studied it. We have not implemented. The intent of this transit feasibility plan is to take these 55 studies together, shake all this data, what are the common themes, what are the common corridors, and come up with projects which could be implemented, could compete for federal funding and have good return on investment. In January, this project will come back with 3 top corridors. Right now, the strongest ones are where we see people traveling anyhow, so the USF area into downtown Tampa is very strong, and then doing an awful lot of outreach. It is the planner's job to do the math and present the ideas back to the public for folks to react to. So you will continue to see us on that. So regional, going everywhere from autonomy to rideshare to more efficient use of services. And this goes along with a zero-based budget and an overhaul of how we do all our internal business processes as well. I think I made it in under 15 minutes, so I am going to conclude. And I would be delighted to take any questions, though I'm not a puppy and I don't have one.
Any questions from council?
I've got 3. Would you like one?
A puppy or a child?
Puppy.
Or a question?
3 puppies probably equals 1 child, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
You're not giving away any kids, are you? Okay.
Well, we thank you very much for the update and
Thank you, sir.
presentation.
And if we can help in any way with Hurricane Irma, especially for folks with disabilities, please let us know.
Thank you. I just want to add that I have been conducting meetings on the bus, and it has been a pleasure to ride the bus and then ride it back. It's amazing who you get to talk to on the way back. You know, it's not a meeting anymore, but we're still having a meeting. And everything that I sent to your facilitators, they answered back, and I appreciate that. So
Great.
that was very important to me, and I really do appreciate the concessions that you have tried very diligently to make for those folks. I don't know if any of you noticed, but at the last meeting, I think 90% of the speakers were from Temple Terrace.
It definitely
So
felt like it.
don't mess with Temple Terrace.
That's true.
Right, yes. that's right.
Well, and Councilwoman, you've heard this before, we don't own the service. We operate it, we put it out there, our communities own it. And we're very proud that in the time I've been there, at least, every time we come forward with proposals, once we hear back from the public, we change them. Because it looks great on paper, but it has to work for the people using it. So we're very proud that we've been able to build a relationship that folks feel like they can come and give us an earful, and that we can be responsive and have that track record. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. We're going to move on to the next item, which is item C, the Hillsborough County Advisory Council appointment. There is a vacancy of the Hillsborough County Advisory Council to fill in the unexpired term of Nicolette Bedarian. The city received 2 applications, one from Kimberly DeFusco and one from Allison Fernandez. I see Ms. Fernandez is here. Would you like to speak or address council? Good.
Good evening, Allison Fernandez, 6601 Heatherton Court. It came to my attention that there was a vacancy on the Advisory Council for Historical Advising, and it's something that I'm very interested in. I have lived in Temple Terrace since 1972, with the exception of some time away for college, and chose to return here and raise my children because I think that this community has so much depth, and it's a small town with big town connections, as we just heard about. But I am very passionate about the history of Temple Terrace, and I would enjoy the opportunity to serve the city in this capacity if you all see fit to appoint me to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Is Kimberly here? I haven't seen her.
Not tonight.
Okay. Each council member has a ballot to vote for their top applicant for service on Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council. If you could please complete your ballot and pass it down to the city clerk. Thank you. Council has selected Allison Fernandez as the appointment for the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Committee for a term extending from September 5th, 2017 until July 19th, 2019. I will ask for a motion to approve the appointment.
So moved.
There is a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a
Jump
second.
in
Is there any
anytime you want.
discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Thank you for everyone who put forth the volunteer for the positions. They're very helpful to our community. We're going to move on to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. If the minutes are acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Donahue.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Gorlich. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Going to move on to item 3, which is persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. Again, if there's anybody who wishes to be heard, I have a few forms here. Forms are in the back, and you can turn them into the city clerk. The first person I have here is Sharon Bass from the Chamber of Commerce. She would like to talk about the new chamber board.
Sharon Bass, 9385 North 56th Street. Good evening, Vice Mayor Boss and members of council. I come to you as the past board chair of the Greater Temple Terrace Chamber of Commerce, and it's my privilege and great honor this evening to introduce you to our 2017-2018 oncoming board chair, Deborah Neal.
Thank you. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Deborah Neal, and I'm the new board chair, like Sharon said. And I'm very proud to be able to hold that position. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. I always like being in the position of a past something.
Are you counting the days?
Yes. The second person I have, and I apologize, I forgot to mention in the beginning, you, please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak, is Mr. Malloy on Backyard Chickens.
Hi, Travis Malloy, 206 South Lockmore Avenue. Mr. Bell forgot to inform me that as Citizen of the Year, I get to make one law. Is that right? No. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to speak in favor of backyard chickens. They're a very benign addition to a neighborhood. They've been doing fine in Tampa, and especially down in Seminole Heights. I have a lot of experience with chickens. I have a little farm right out of city limits. And I would be more than welcome to make myself available for any sort of crafting of laws or ordinances. I do think that they attract younger people, and I think they may be outlawing it might be a slight deterrence to bringing people into the neighborhood. I think I'll have fresh eggs during the hurricane, which I'm looking forward to. So looking over the Tampa rules, they seem very reasonable, and if we do approach that, I think that just copying the rules, 1 hen per 1,000 square feet, no roosters, a coop, a small building, no bigger than what we allow for a shed, a fenced yard, and basically you treat them as a pet. And I'd encourage every family member to name the chickens so that when they get out of the yard, you'll definitely want to go looking for them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malloy. And I just lost the other one, but I know it's Mr. Kennedy, and I couldn't read what it said, a good sanitation truck. I just couldn't read the words.
I'll clarify.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address, please.
John Kennedy, 6117 East 111th Avenue. My topic is the Good Samaritan Law. On the Saturday following the last meeting, they had a river cleanup. En route to the river cleanup on the corner of 56 and Bush Bullard Parkway, a little girl had an encounter of the inappropriate kind with the trailer of a landscape truck. Now, I saw it. There was no paramedics there, 4 police cars there. Little girl sitting on the grass. I turned around and I came back. Now, I have 30 years critical care and emergency experience, pediatrics specifically. And I was told to stay away. Don't come any closer, Mr. Kennedy. We have it under control. There's no paramedics there. I have 6 years as a paramedic with Hillsborough County. 30 years of critical care pediatric experience, and I'm told to stay away. Why? Because my ongoing dispute with the police department. Pure and simple, you're endangering public safety, specifically children, by their animosity towards me. I think it's outrageous. This ongoing dispute between me and the chief of police and other law enforcement officers is endangering your citizens. If that little girl had been seriously hurt, she could have died before the paramedics got from one side of 56 to the other. And I was right there. And I'm watching these idiots try to put on a pair of gloves. Now, I want to know who y'all work for. I have addressed 3 times. This is my 4th addressment. When I went down to the river cleanup, I was chastised for creating an antagonistic relationship with the police department. I haven't never tried to antagonize anybody. I've always gone out of my way to try to help people. I'm covered the Good Samaritan law. Anything I do is covered under the Good Samaritan law. And because you don't know something, somebody can die. Because I do know something, it's the difference between life and death for a child. Now you tell me who y'all represent. Because evidently it's not the citizens of Temple Terrace. Because if so, this police department would have been reined in.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I have no other requests to speak. If there are no other requests to speak, we're going to move on to item 4, which is communications petitions. We have none. Go to item 5, the consent agenda. Mr. Stevenson, City Manager, will you explain the items on the consent agenda, please?
My pleasure, Mr. Vice Mayor. On the consent agenda this evening is a resolution to approve the purchase of a 2017 Ford F550 with a Palfinger service body on the back side of it in the amount of $89,480 from Palmetto Ford Truck Sales, utilizing Florida Sheriff Association contract bid FSA 16-VEH 14.0. Fiscal year 2016-17 budget includes sufficient funds in account 410-1922-533-64.12 to make this purchase. The requested crew truck will be a replacement for a 2003 Chevy Silverado 1500. The existing vehicle will go to auction, but due to its age and condition, the vehicle is expected to have a minimal value as far as a resale. Staff recommends the City Council adopts a resolution authorizing the purchase of this 2017 F550.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council on this item? Seeing none. Council, do you have any discussion on this?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve by Councilmember Gorlich. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Donahue. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. We're going to move to item 6, which is a public hearings, ordinances, and resolutions. The first item A, is a resolution approving the modified interlocal funding agreement for CDBG grant funds, and the city engineer Pierre Valles will explain this to us.
Good evening, I'm Pierre Valles, city engineer, and this modification is for to a previous agreement that you had for funding for CDBG. and its intention is to move the leftover funds that were used in fiscal year 16-17 to fiscal year 17-18. This is why we're modifying the previous agreement to move the funds. Questions?
Are there any questions from council real quick? And this modification is just because work has been completed and we're moving it over to the next fiscal year, correct?
There are some additional funds from last year's. We've included the overlay of two streets, Parade Street and Overlook, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're just trying to find ways to expend the funds that have been given to us. So,
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, is there any questions from council? Seeing none, if this is acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the execution of the modified agreement between Hillsborough County and the City of Temple Terrace to fund initiatives under the Community Development Block Grant. This modification extends the funding that was awarded to March 31st, 2018.
Move to, excuse me, move to approve the resolution approving the modified interlocal funding agreement for CDBG.
There is a motion, is there a second? Second. There is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I
Motion
can
is carried.
clarify, it is not Overlook, it is Seneca and Parade Street with a portion of North 52nd Street. It's not Overlook,
Thank you.
just for clarity.
Item B is a first public hearing on the fiscal year 2017-2018 tax levy and fiscal year 2017-2018 operating budget and capital improvement budget. I'm going to open the public hearing on the tentative millage rate for ad valorem tax levy for fiscal year 2017-18, and budgets for 2017-18. And turn it over to City Manager Charles Stevenson, please, to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. In accordance with the provisions of the city charter and the Florida statutes, City Council must conduct public hearings on property tax levy and adopting an annual operating budget. The first of these two hearings has been scheduled on this evening in order to solicit public comments on the proposed tax millage levy prior to the adoption of the annual budget for 2017-2018. I am to announce that the recommended property tax millage for 2017-2018 is $6.955 per $1,000 of assessed value. That is a 1/4 of a mil decrease from the current 7.25 levy of current fiscal year. The recommended property tax levy is 0.041 mils, or 0.6%, higher than the statutory rollback rate of 6.914. Following public comment on the proposed tax levy, council should take action to adopt an attached resolution approving that millage rate. With that, there is a resolution before council addressing the tax millage levy and the recommended property tax in relationship to the statutory rollback rate.
I'm going to go ahead and ask for public comments on the millage rate and the budgets. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item, please come forward. Anyone like to speak on it, please come forward. Seeing none. Council, I would like to go ahead and ask for any comments or questions regarding millage and budgets. Any further discussion? And the numerous hours we've had and
I was just gonna
horses
say.
we've beat.
We've had numerous hours talking about this, so at this point, I'm ready to approve the resolution to adopt a tentative millage rate of 6.955 mils for fiscal year 2017-18.
Yeah, that's, I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting, we have a couple things to do in the order here, so I'm trying to make sure we get them all done right away.
Yeah, if we could, Ms. Donahue, make mention of the millage rate in relationship to rollback in that motion.
I'd be happy to read all of it if you're ready. you want me to?
If we could just read paragraph 1 that is in the body of the resolution, I think that would suffice.
Are you ready for that?
Yes, good.
I move to approve resolution number 17, resolution of the City Council of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting a tentative millage rate of 6.955 mils for fiscal year 2017-18, said millage rate being .041 mils, or 0.6% more than the rollback rate of 6.914 mils, and providing effective date.
Thank you. There's a motion. There's just, do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further council discussion? Any further council discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. There are no amendments. And we're going to keep the public hearing open as we go on to item C, which is a resolution. Or did we just get that done?
Just did that.
We just did that, B and C in the same.
Okay, so
Okay, so we can
D.
go to item D. We took care of that. No one wants to speak on the budget or anything else. We're going to item D, which is first reading of ordinance approving final millage rate for ad valorem tax levy for fiscal year 2017-2018. I will ask the city clerk to read the title of ordinance adopting the millage rate for that fiscal year and the ad valorem tax levy.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting a millage rate of 6.955 mils for the fiscal year 2017-2018, said millage rate being 0.041 mils, or 0.6% more than the rollback rate of 6.914 mils, providing a severability clause and providing an effective date.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve this on first reading.
Move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, the motion is approved. The ordinance will be presented for public hearing and second reading on September 19th, 2017. Moving on to item E, which is resolution approving tentative fiscal year 2017-2018 operating budget and capital improvement budget. The chair will entertain a motion to approve a resolution to adopt the tentative fiscal 2017, 2018 tentative budget.
Move to approve the fiscal year 17-18 operating budget and capital improvement budget. Is that the right one?
Just E, we're not to that one yet.
That's what I'm reading.
Yeah,
We're not doing on E? We're on E, right?
great, okay.
Yeah, that's what I just read.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second. I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank the team effort that was, I believe it was, I don't think anybody had a Labor Day vacation because everyone who has anything to do with dollar figures in the city was working over the weekend for the budget. It appears that all the questions we had at the last budget meeting were answered, that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, although in this case, I guess it's all the dollar signs and all the cent signs are in order. I understand that we actually had some citizen involvement, and I personally would like to thank Mr. Gil Schischler for assisting us with his expertise of budget and finance. So, you know, if you were at the meeting on Friday, you're probably wondering why we're all sitting here saying we approve, but I think it's because of the hard work that went into taking care of this. So, Finance Director Boswell, thank you. Thank your team. City Manager, thank you. At some point, you know, that's why we pay you the big bucks, right, to work over the holidays. No comment, no comment. But thank you to everybody.
And again, thank you for the volunteer, Mrs. Schussler, for helping us out in this situation. It's greatly appreciated. Is there any further? You're going to read it, right? Yes. Okay, with no further discussion, I'm going to ask the city clerk to read the ordinance adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2000.
Actually, Did we vote on that last item?
On E, we haven't voted on E yet.
All right, the motion to approve item E.
There's a motion and a second, we just need to
Second,
vote.
we had discussion, all right, all those in favor, I'm losing track here of everything.
That's okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. I said aye also. Motion carried.
Okay, item F.
Now we're into item F.
Okay.
This is the first reading of ordinance approving the final fiscal year 2017-2018 operating budget and capital improvement budget. I'll ask the clerk to read the ordinance adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2017-2018.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting the final operating budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018, and the capital improvement budget, given notice to the public hearings thereon, authorizing the city manager to issue such instructions as are necessary to achieve and accomplish the service programs, authorizing the city manager or the finance director to transfer monies, authorizing the city manager or the finance director upon receipt of a donation or grant to appropriate said funds in the expenditure line item of the program as requested by the donor grantor, providing a severability clause effective date and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading.
So moved.
So motion is moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Almost did it again.
Opposed it again. Motion is carried unanimously, 4 ayes.
Just turn your mic
The,
off, nobody.
We will now close the public hearing on tentative budget and ad valorem tax levy.
Thank God.
And we're going to move on to item G, which is the first reading of an ordinance to approve a renewal of the franchise agreement with Tico Electric. I'll turn it over to City Manager Charles Stevenson.
Mr. Vice Mayor, to present this agreement is our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Kate Wells.
Thank you. Mark Connolly couldn't be here this evening, so he had asked me to cover the meeting, and he's the one that has been working with counsel for Tico on renegotiating the lease agreement that is before you this evening for approval. The last franchise agreement negotiated on behalf of the city was back in 1987. Typically, these franchise agreements are for a 30-year period intended to cover the investment, the financial investment by Tico in their electrical distribution system. The one difference you will note between this proposed agreement and the one that's been in place is the proposed agreement will increase the revenue paid to the city. It'll be 6% of the annual collected gross revenues by Tico for residents and other commercial users within the city of Temple Terrace. The previous agreement was at 5.4%. Mark also wanted me to mention that the agreement before you is substantially similar, not only to the one that had been in place for the last 30 years, but it's also similar to the one negotiated between Tico and the city of Plant City back in 2010. I know that there's a representative from Tico in the audience. If you've got any questions, we are both available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the public on this item? Seeing none, are there any comments from council regarding this item?
I have a question. Couple of
Councilmember
questions.
Chalour.
So is there an increase in rates from 5.4 to 6%? Or is TICO giving the city a little larger piece of their profits?
It is my understanding the rates are controlled by the Public Service Commission. What is being changed is the percentage paid back to the city of Temple Terrace by TICO. It would be 6% of the collected gross revenues as opposed to 5.4. But it's not my understanding that this increase is tied to any rate increase. That is controlled by the state.
Okay, I just want to disclose, I think TICO and one of the other big power companies are going to be asking for a rate hike pretty soon. It's been advertised on the news, and I just want to make sure there wasn't two rates coming at us, increases. And the other question I have is there anything in this document that prohibits the TICO contractors from coming in and absolutely butchering the trees when they cut big V's in them down the middle of our city for a living with oak trees and creating a big V canopy? Is there anything in there, or could something be put in there that if you're going to do that, let's do it so it's not, I get why Tico does it, it's great. They try to make sure that everybody is assured electricity during storms, but they create the trees, if it comes through your neighborhood, I mean, it's not pretty. So I didn't know if there's, something, certainly can't be healthy for the trees. I know up in Plain City, they just came up one of the main roads and absolutely just, it looks terrible. And I get why they do it. It's not done intentional, obviously. It's done to protect that. But I just didn't know if there's, and I know this council or previous councils have talked to that concern before. I just don't know if there's a viable answer to that. Just
I don't believe that the franchise agreement addresses the trimming of trees. I certainly, we've got Mr. Alan Denham here with TECO to not put him on the spot, but I know that council has discussed this before as far as tree trimming. It is typically not something that's put into a franchise agreement, but perhaps Alan can address that for us and kind of give us some assurance that they're aware of this. I know that there's been numerous complaints, not only here in Temple Terrace, but out in the county as well. But also, Alan, if you can address the rate increase that Mr. Chiller is talking about.
Yes, I will. Hi, my name is Alan Denham with Tampa Electric Company. Our business is located at 702 North Franklin Street in Tampa. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, Mr. Vice Mayor and council members. I did want to comment on the fee, the franchise fee. It's actually a fee that's imposed by the municipality or by the city of Temple Terrace. It's not at all connected with the Public Service Commission. It is actually essentially a fee that Tampa Electric collects on behalf of Temple Terrace for the right to do business in the city. That's this agreement is basically outlining our use of the right-of-ways and the ability to do business in the city.
So the fee that was just mentioned by Ms. O'Dowd,
Yes.
that fee is a fee directly from the city to the customers through the TECO bill.
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I want to clarify.
So there is a small increase there.
There's a small increase,
Okay,
yes, from
so that's-
5.4 to 6%.
Okay, but doesn't the city charge a 10% utility fee? Is that, I know on cell bills and electric, and I thought we charge a 10%. Where's this 6%?
And that is a separate,
Oh, so-
yes.
So we're
amount.
charging 16% to our customers.
There's
in essence.
a utility tax that is a municipal tax that's provided for by the state legislature, and then the franchise fee is specific to the municipality itself.
Okay.
And they are two different distinct charges that we, and both those, Tampa Electric collects on our bill.
Okay, I understand. So what does the city do with the 6%? What happens? Yeah, where's that 6%? What do we do with the 6%? Or where's it go? Or how do we, I didn't see
It's
that.
built into your budget as a revenue coming in.
Okay, from the utility. Is it commingled with the 10% we collect as well, 16%?
There is a line item in your budget that talks about utility assessments.
Okay.
Verizon, I think, gets one as well. TECO gets one, and I think People's Gas is also involved in some kind of utility fee. They all come in as a revenue to the city.
I just thought we always had a 10% service fee, not a 16% or a 15, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That's pretty substantial, but,
Look at your cell bill someday.
yeah, I've seen 10% on there.
Well,
I didn't see the other.
There's
Is it
more.
on, is it clearly defined on the bill? 'Cause I've seen the 10%. Does it say another 5 or?
Yeah.
It does, okay.
And if you add it up your cell phone bill, you're closer to 20%.
We all got to get our piece.
I hear you. Just wanted to know for myself.
It's not just Temple Terrace, though. I mean, all the municipalities around the county.
I agree. I'm not kicking you. I'm just asking,
Yeah, this is
I didn't
not
know that.
specific to just Temple Terrace, just
Okay.
to let you know.
Okay, and then, is there any consideration, and Mr. Denham's been awesome, I'll tell you, as long as he's been representative of the city, anytime we've called him, he is the most responsive person of a large corporation that I've ever known, so, hats off to you. I mean,
Appreciate that.
he's a get it done, doesn't push under the carpet. Is there anything with those trees that can be, I mean, I know you have to trim the trees, I get at that.
Yeah.
Is there anything to,
Well, and you make a good point, and, you know, tree trimming, you know, particularly when you have a situation like hurricanes are coming through and other storms is pretty important for us. No one likes to do the cuts that you talked about, the V cuts and the side cuts that happen. We don't like doing that, but it's part of the requirements to keep the limbs away from our lines. We do trim to certain standards that, one, keep the lines, the limbs from the lines, but we also trim for the health of the tree. So those are all factors that are taken into consideration when we do the trimming. It at times can be very dramatic, and we understand that. And one of the things that I think has been great about working with Temple Terrace is that you are a very tree-focused city, and I know there's a lot of effort to make sure the right tree goes in the right place. You know, the place for a tree is not under the power lines, and so, you know, we can't do much about the trees that are already there, but certainly the trees that are coming, that are being planted. I know there's an active program to plant trees within the city, and they're done properly, keeping them off the edge of the property and away from the power lines. It's, you know, it's a lot of people, if you're planting a 12-foot oak tree, you may not look up when the oak tree's planted, and it's not a problem now, but in 25 years, the next generation of us will be sitting here having that discussion. So we understand your concern, and we hear that quite regularly, and it's something we try to avoid when we can, but it is part of our overall reliability and preparation for situations like, you know, storms and things along those lines. So
thank you for your response, I appreciate it.
And I think sometimes it depends on what crew comes out there. I know of a certain situation, I'm here with a resident in our city, and I put him in touch with Mr. Denham, and they were able to get out there and mitigate what the crew was trying to do as opposed to what they could do. So I think sometimes it depends on who's doing the job, whether or not they're trying to do it the best way they can or whatever. And I think they monitor their groups pretty well, like keeping track to make sure they are looking at the health of a tree and not just a flat top haircut.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I can echo Mr. Chilura's comments about Mr. Denham being available. There have been evenings that I've called Alan for power outages and stuff like that. I don't know if I called him this weekend, but if I didn't, he was one that wasn't on the list. But he's always made himself very available, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with TICO.
I'll ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, providing a short title, providing findings and intent, granting Tampa Electric Company a non-exclusive franchise to use the public streets, alleys, highways, waterways, bridges, easements, and other public ways of the City of Temple Terrace for the construction, maintenance, and operation of an electric system in the City of Temple Terrace, prescribing the terms and conditions under which said non-exclusive rights and privileges may be exercised, providing a severability clause effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Thank you, Ms. Mooney. If the ordinance is acceptable, I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading.
Move to approve the ordinance on first reading.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion further? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. It has been approved. The ordinance will appear for second reading on a public hearing on Tuesday, September 19th, 2017. Move on to item 7, which is council business. Does anyone have any council business to bring before the council? Councilmember Donahue.
Yes, I do. I have two, actually. The first one, and I don't know if, is it Bernie? Did you want to address, I don't know, he did not sign up to speak, but you're good? Thank you. Oh, even better. You went right to Ms. Egan. Okay. All right, well, that's one. The second one is Mr. Malloy is still here. I know, a month ago maybe, we had some people come and talk to us about backyard chickens, and I think it's been debated thoroughly on Facebook. I don't know about here, but it's been totally vetted on Facebook. And I was hoping, and I know we've been busy with the budget, is there some opportunity for us to see the city of, City of Tampa has an ordinance that seems to have been met with approval by the community, does Plant City, I'm looking at Mr. Malloy because I think he probably knows the answers to these. Does Plant City also have an ordinance? No, okay. So is there any chance for us to actually look at the ordinance for Tampa to see if it's something? I mean, we did have a large crowd not only send us emails, both pro and con, about this issue, and I hate for it to just sit out there with nothing happening. So I don't know if we have somebody here tonight who can address whether that's being entertained, or I'd like to ask that it be
I can
entertained.
address that real quick for you. We have asked staff out of the last meeting to start gathering information. I thought I had my folders, but I don't.
Okay,
But it's easy enough to ascertain that information. We can certainly put together a spreadsheet of sort that we can give to councils for their review and for their future discussion if they would care to do that.
well, I mean, it's not like we have to invent an ordinance. We
No,
have
it's there. I
them
mean,
out
it's just
there.
outlining the basis of the ordinances,
Right.
and
Okay.
we can certainly provide you with that information. It's on my desk. I
Okay.
hadn't done anything
And
with it
and
here, obviously.
Believe me, I know what you've been doing, so
If we
it's
can
okay.
do that
Yeah.
October 1, that would be
Okay,
great.
That would be great. That would be great. Okay, thank you very much.
And just on that, Sherry, we have probably all received a lot of emails on that. If everyone wants a generic email back that says, thank you for your email, that's great. I'm not going to comment on it. I won't comment to anybody here. I probably received 60 or 70 chicken emails, so when the
Agreed.
Realtor brought up the chicken before the egg comment earlier, I was cringing. But,
Yeah, well, I think
and again, and we've been trying to
work.
work on this budget, so
Yeah.
this has been the
Abs-
biggest
Absolutely. I
part.
just wanted to make sure that now that this chapter is moving on, that we can make sure that someone who does actually come to us multiple times, that we let the citizen know that we're listening. It's very tough, somebody comes, it's off agenda, and then they have to either sit throughout the whole meeting and see if somebody's going to actually mention it or not. So, I'm trying not to say to somebody, can you just hang in there with us? We promise to address the issue, so, which is what I intend to do. Thank you.
And just for clarification, I think we've all got the emails.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a bunch of people saying, give me chickens, okay? There's people on both sides of the fence, so to speak. Chicken wire, there you go. Both sides of the chicken wire. And, part of my reluctance in moving forward with it at this time is, well, at some point, our staff would have to write an ordinance, and we've got bigger things to do at the moment, quite frankly. We've got redevelopment, we've got budget issues. Dealing with writing an ordinance for chickens is not on my priority list, personally. And if you look at that, and I have looked at the Tampa ordinance, it ain't just, you can have chickens anywhere you want.
Of course not.
Okay, it's not, and you can't have chickens running around, and you can't have them running loose, and you can't have them in every part of the city. So it's not as easy as just saying, okay, we'll do what Tampa does. It's not that easy. And quite frankly, not everybody in Temple Terrace is warming up to the idea of having chickens next to them, myself included. So I think, if we're gonna deal with it, we can deal with it, but I think we have bigger things to do at the moment.
Is there any other council business?
I do.
Yes.
I just
Councilmember
have-
Gorlich.
Just one quick thing, and Sherry, I'm sure you didn't mean it to sound the way you said it, but I just want to clarify something you said earlier when we were talking about redevelopment. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, but you said when council shot down Erickson. Council never shot down Erickson. Erickson, of his own accord, decided to drop out of the negotiations that were started with him. Council never got a chance to re-vote on Erickson, because Erickson decided not to move forward. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. The council had nothing to do with Erickson dropping out. It was all Erickson deciding that he didn't want to move forward with the negotiations. So that's all, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other council business, we're going to move on to item 8, which is new business. Item A on there, new business is a charter review committee reappointment. The city manager will explain.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. On August 15th, the city council members appointed city residents to serve on a newly formed charter review committee. Councilmember Pogorlich appointed Dr. Mel Gerardo, and Dr. Gerardo has since reconsidered her appointment and respectfully requested that Mr. Pergola select another city resident to serve in her place on that committee. Respecting the request, Councilmember Pergola selected Carl Arvari Cooper to serve as his appointment on the committee review. It's requested that council make a motion to approve this appointment and move forward with getting this committee organized.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, is there any council discussion? If acceptable, I'll entertain a motion approving the appointment of Carl Avari Cooper to serve as Councilmember Pagorlich's appointment to the Charter Review Committee.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
I do have a question. This would be for the city attorney.
Motion's carried.
Thank you, sorry. Once someone is appointed to a committee or council, the sunshine rule kicks in at that point. When does the sunshine take effect? So we've appointed now all 5 of the Charter Review Committee members. Are we now under the sunshine law, even though they have not started to actually meet?
The sunshine law would start applying as soon as they're appointed and sworn into office, if they take the oath of office, which I believe the Charter Review Commissioners would. And that would start immediately on any matters that they would anticipate would come before that commission for discussion purposes.
Okay, thank you.
So I would suspect no one's been sworn in yet, but we do have a meeting scheduled with them, and that would probably take place at that point.
I would recommend that since they've been formally appointed by the various individual members of council, they now know that they're on the commission, they know what they're going to be charged to review and make a recommendation, that they shouldn't be having communications amongst themselves about what they anticipate discussing during those meetings.
Or with us?
Amongst themselves, they would be members of the commission, so the sunshine law would apply to discussions between the members of that commission.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Is there any other new business? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the city manager's report. The item A on the city manager's report is the receipt of the Bullard Parkway Complete Street final report, and the city manager will explain.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. In October of last year, in 2016, the MPO had presented an overview of the Bullard Parkway Complete Street Study to City Council. The Complete Street Study that was initiated and that was in keeping with the Vision Zero that was adopted in 2016 as well, was included in the city's transportation improvement program and evolved into a desire to connect the neighborhoods east of the Hillsborough River with the redevelopment efforts that were going on down at Bush and 56th Street. Using various modes of transportation, the Complete Street approach is a planning and design a project that prioritizes safe access, comfortable and convenient travel. The purpose of the study was to identify and evaluate alternative options for to better serve those who travel Bullard Parkway, again from 56th Street all the way to Morris Bridge Road. The study evaluated the existing conditions along the roadway and produced a list of recommended improvements to make the roadway safer and more comfortable for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. There is no action that is required of council. This is something the study has been done and adopted by the MPO as of August 1st, and it's being provided to council just as a matter of information going forward. It's my understanding that the county is scheduled to do some overlay on Temple Terrace Highway, and they're considering incorporating some of these changes at that point in time. So hopefully it's not one of these studies that we do and put on the shelf. Hopefully it's something that we can make some improvements. There's certainly some connectivity problems between the east side of the river and the west side of the river. So we're going to try to address those. Again, just for your information. If I can take the opportunity here to make mention of a couple things here that are of concern. Obviously, we've been talking with the country club about the situation with.
Just if I can interrupt you for a second, Is this in relation to that item? Because I have a request to speak on the
On the
complete
country-
street study.
Oh, fine, that's great.
And then we actually have to accept it. And
Well,
so if the
What
club
he's-
is out of that,
What he's saying is hold your comments on the club till we're done here.
gotcha.
right, I got a couple things to do there.
Okay.
And I do have a request to address the mayor and council on this from Allison Fernandez. Please state your name and address, ma'am. You have 3 minutes.
Allison Fernandez, 6601 Heatherton Court. I want to address the Bullard Parkway study because when I was on council, we were approached several times by people with the Green Beltway project and an effort to provide the bicycling, hiking, trails, connectivity. And right now, Temple Terrace isn't necessarily completely connected to that. So I would ask, as you are looking at this project and going forward with making improvements to the street, to keep that in mind, because I do know that the trails that will be created along the bypass canal on Swift Mud property and also Flatwoods Park and that area are extremely popular for bicycling, and we have a number of people that bicycle, that groups that meet here and then move out there. And maybe Fowler and Fletcher aren't the streets to use because of the level of traffic on them, but maybe Bullard is the better path to get that connection going. That would be very desirable for people. I know we're talking about chickens and people moving in, but this is a lifestyle that is embraced by many, many people, that the ability to connect to the different green parkways and beltways around. So I would just ask you to consider that as you're looking at improvements, not just the golf course and the connectivity to the other side of Bullard Parkway. All right?
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, is there any council discussion? The only thing I would just add to it is if possibly we can link this onto our website that people can have access to. I know it's probably on the MPO website and the county website, but we can kind of cross-link it to
That's a
that.
great
Everyone
idea.
can look at the study. It's fairly lengthy. It's very similar to the presentation we got a few months ago from them, who just has now gone through all the approval processes by the MPO and the county and their advisory boards and everything else. If there's no other council discussion, and if it's acceptable, I'll entertain a motion accepting the Bullard Parkway Complete Streets final report.
I move to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve in a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Okay, Charles, thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
About these roads and how they possibly will connect the parks and so forth. In the city, somebody asked me the other day, do our parks close at night, like throughout the city? Is there signs that say that park closes at 10 or?
My understanding they do.
They close at
Somebody
dusk.
said the park at Linwood, there's not a sign there. Linwood Park, and if it does, if there's one there, great. If not, then tell me where it's at so I can point them in the right direction.
Carl Langfeld, Leisure Services Director. All the parks do close at, well, some of them close at 10 PM, some of them close at dusk. It varies from parks. The ones that close outside of the city ordinance, which is 10 PM, do have signs that they close at dusk. A good example of that is, Riverfront Preserve is a dawn to dusk park that does have signage up that says when that park closes. The other parks close at 10 PM by ordinance, and it is in the city code book. There are signs in some of the parks, but not all of them. A lot of the neighborhood parks don't have signs to that effect.
Can we look at maybe doing something like that? Putting signs in the areas, since our ordinance, I mean, most people don't go read the ordinance and know when, you know.
Never know.
But where there's riffraff hanging out sometimes at 10:30 at night, there's no business to be hanging out in the park. And if there's no signs, they could say, I don't know what the code is. It just could deter, probably at a very minimal expense, it could probably deter any.
We'll work it into the budget
Just a thought.
somewhere.
Okay.
It's not in the budget. Just kidding. That should be fairly innocuous to get done. I think we can certainly swing that.
How many
I'm just
times,
kidding.
this year are we gonna hear that?
Just real quick, Chief Albano, I think, wants to address that topic also.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Boss, Ken Albano, your police chief. I would ask council, if you're going to be considering this, and it hasn't come up, so I haven't had a chance to talk in depth with the city manager about it, but I would suggest to you that there is nothing that anyone should be doing in one of our parks after dark until 10 o'clock. I would suggest that you consider, or we consider, dusk to dawn. When it's dark, you don't belong in the park. If you want to go fishing and use the access, that's different. But being back in a dark park, it's just inviting problems, to Councilmember Chilura's point. So just wanted to offer that for your consideration.
Well, we'll look at all the parks, and I agree with you that we do have pocket parks, at neighborhood parks where people go there. We'll get the three of us together, we'll come up with a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we voted on this already, so back to Charles to go ahead and continue his report.
Thank you, Mr. Boss. I've got just a few things that I need to discuss with council. Probably the most pressing here is the status with the country club. A couple of weeks ago, we had some representatives in here from the club. They kind of gave us an outline of what they intended to do. We certainly had sent them a letter. They are now, as far as that letter and the agreement is concerned, in default. I don't know that they have communicated to me or anyone else that they have any intention of giving the city some funds and start paying back some of the commitment that they have on the loan that the city took out for them. I just want to make council aware that we will start some conversation with them, and some serious conversation. I think the last time they were here, they said they wanted another 30 days above the letter that we provided to them of notice. I think that probably runs into the middle of September, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were here on the 14th meeting. But I just need to have council understand that a lot of what we intended to have conversation with, I have not been reached out to. You know, they had mentioned that they were going to start having some small meetings. I don't know the status of that. These guys have not provided me any kind of feedback whatsoever. We had recently shared with council, if I'm not mistaken, an updated projection. I don't really, it's not really a financial, an audited financial statement, if you would, but it's just really just a week-by-week projection of their expenses. And quite honestly, and rather nervously, when I looked at it last week, there is no provisions to make any kind of payments whatsoever to the city. That concerns me. And I just need the council to make council aware that I will start reaching out to them and having a little bit more serious conversation, because I think that we need to move this thing somewhere. I can't, they need to bring a plan to us. They need to understand that the city is expecting payment. I am. I mean, council wants to waive it. They need to come to council with a plan in order to present to council so that they can move this thing forward. Indicators I've got so far from the last time I've spoken with those reps is that we're not moving in any kind of direction. No one has reached out to me, and again, I know that I've been busy, but obviously you would expect some kind of communication back to Mr. Pogorlich or I or Mr. Boss. I don't know that, I certainly haven't had any conversation. I don't know if either one of you have had any conversation, but they're starting to make me nervous. So I just want council to know.
Yeah,
Okay?
just to chime in on that, I have not, I mean, I wouldn't say there's been a lot of talk, but there hasn't been any communications about a plan. And I will say that disappointingly, you and I had made some suggestions to him at our last meeting when everybody was there, and from my understanding, there's been no even reaching out to anybody at the suggestions we made to them. So, I'd hope there would be somebody here tonight to kind of update us, but I understand they're actually having some other meeting at the club tonight, about this issue. So maybe they'll come out of that meeting with a plan. I hope so.
And I'm not insinuating that they're avoiding us or avoiding conversation. I'm just letting council know that out of what we heard about a month ago, a couple weeks ago, and in the initial conversations that the three of us had, there was somewhat of an agreement that we would start working forward towards some temporary plan of anything. Now, when I got the cost breakdown of their expenses, I was shocked to find that there are no plans in there to give the city any money. That concerns me.
Well, and just so everybody knows, the projections that we got, what was it, 2 months ago we had the meeting? Bob, you were there, right? Yeah, it was a couple months ago. They gave us a projection at that time that did include payment back to the city. And then we just got one last week, I guess, late last week, that was the same format, but it had different numbers on it, and those numbers didn't include payment back to the city. So I share your concern, Charles. I think everybody here shares that concern. Like I said, I'm not saying they don't have a plan, they just haven't shared it with us yet. But even if they do have a plan, I'll also tell you that by their own projections, they need to come up with some revenue, and not paying us doesn't really help them that much, okay? It postpones the inevitable, but it doesn't cure it. So one of the reasons, that I'm so adamant that they need to pay us is because, if not paying us was the solution, that'd be something I'd be willing to consider. But not paying us doesn't solve their problem. So.
I just wanted council to be made aware of status as of today. Yes, sir.
My question to you is, I just want to focus on the facts. What did your demand letter state?
Their demand letter really wanted some type of payment, an updated payment, if you would, for payment in arrears. I think that was set up for some August 15th, if I remember correctly. And then it set them up to the end of the month for if you would, a tentative plan, if you would, short-term plan, to be presented back to city council so that we can kind of start making some conversation about where we're going forward with this. So as it stands right now, we've received neither. I know that when the representatives were here a couple weeks ago, they had made mention that they wanted another 30 days, or they needed another 30 days in order to come up with a plan. So I'm not saying that they're not working on something. I'm not saying that they don't have any intention of paying the city money. I'm just telling you, indicators are, there was nothing on that spreadsheet that provided for any kind of payments to the city. And I hadn't seen or heard anything about some of these meetings that they had made mention of that they were going to have with some of the members. It's my understanding there was a meeting tonight of the board and the members, but
I'm not sure if they had that meeting tonight.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure if they had that meeting tonight.
I just
That was the
heard through the
original plan.
grapevine.
I think they changed it to a little later date.
I don't want to make any assumptions, but what I do expect is if there's a demand letter on the table, there needs to be a cordial communication in the same format as a response, a formal response. That does not sit very well with me. I think the club is a great organization. It's a big part of our community, but at the same time, they certainly have responsibilities like all of us do. And I would suggest that this be put on the next city council agenda item for discussion and find out what the plan is. If there was certainly a notice of default put in place and they have not formally responded to you with what route, which way they want to go, that's not, I'd expect it a little bit more treatment to be a little bit more respectful in the manner that we be responded to accordingly, and we don't have to sit here and guess and assume anything. In addition to that, I'm very disappointed that I specifically asked them at the last meeting, now that we are your bank, I want your financials as a city council member. And we asked for them 6 months ago, and they said they're not going to give them to us. And what I got the other day was appalling, a pro forma. I don't care for performers. I want to see actuals. And I need to make sure by that next meeting that we have the actuals. They've been asked for them and notified, and they gave us what you submitted to us a few days ago. So if we could put this on an agenda item at the next meeting, make them, obviously they can listen to the meeting, or you can communicate with them very clearly. But this is certainly a serious matter. We want to partner with them and help succeed, but at the same time, we need them to come to the table when we're at the table together. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, the lack of plan is not only concerning, but the lack of communication is even more concerning.
We can discuss that next meeting.
We will do our best to reach out to them here this
Thank you.
week and get this stuff going. So.
Thank you.
A couple other things. We've got attorney interviews scheduled for this Friday. I know we have a hurricane out there pending. We're going to get the attorney reviews done so I can get it out of my hair and off my list of things to do. Unless things turn drastically wrong, I think we have time to do that. So we're holding that in place. That's okay with council. Okay.
And
I just wanted to ask, when you, I was going to address the hurricane issue when.
Yeah, I do want to do that, and I know that we had a staff meeting this morning. We certainly discussed the status of the hurricane. Our chief, Mr. Kemp, if he can come up, I know Chief has been having conversations with authorities here today. From what we understand, well, I'll let him talk. He's our emergency manager.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager. Ian Kemp, fire chief. Yeah, I want to make it perfectly clear to everyone, this category 5, 185 mile an hour winds at this time is actually the most powerful storm ever recorded in the Atlantic, and everybody should take notice. Although I don't want to cause any fear in any of the residents, you should be, just as we are in the city, prepared. The City of Temple Terrace Emergency Management is full preparation mode at this time. We're preparing for the worst and certainly praying for the best. We have qualified directors and highly qualified and dedicated employees who are working extremely hard preparing for the storm. The fire department staff attended a conference call today with the emergency management staff of Hillsborough County. We received an update, and then tomorrow the mayor, if you haven't looked at your emails yet, are requested to attend an emergency policy group. We're at that group meeting. They're going to ask you to vote to declare Hillsborough County a state of emergency. Shortly after the county does, usually Temple Terrace falls into place as well. I've talked to the city manager and have asked him that during that meeting that you have on Friday, he consider having an emergency meeting as well, so that the city of Temple Terrace declare emergency, state of emergency as well. That doesn't mean that the hurricane is going to hit, and that shouldn't scare the residents in thinking that we're impending of receiving a direct hit from the hurricane. What that does allow city staff and the city manager to do certain things that to protect the city and protect the residents that we normally wouldn't be able to do without the vote of the council. So I'll ask that you certainly pass that on Friday. Nobody knows where the hurricane's heading. The cone has turned a little bit more west, so it certainly can get into the Gulf, go straight up the state of Florida, or bear a little bit east of Florida. But we'll know much more come Friday. And according to some of the information that we just received at 7 o'clock today, the earliest reasonable time of arrival of tropical storm winds here on the west coast of Tampa would be Friday into early Saturday. However, the most likely time the area could see tropical storm forces would be Saturday and into Monday. So residents, if you don't have the food and water that we've been putting information out that you should have, please do it. Make sure that don't forget your pets, don't forget your family. If you can get them out of the area, come maybe Friday or Saturday. If it's heading into the Gulf, you might want to think about that. And we'll hear more, we'll have much more updates tomorrow, and I'll be sending out updates when I receive them.
Do you have a special place on the website for people to see the updates?
Well, I believe we have it on the website as well, on City of Temple Terrace. We're also going to, I believe Temple Terrace Facebook site has that, and also we're going to be putting some on our fire department website as well. Tomorrow, as Councilmember Begolowicz stated, the county, Hillsborough County Schools is going to notify when and if what schools are going to be closed. Also, Hillsborough County, my understanding, is also going to notify when and where the shelters are going to be opening. As you know, we have a shelter here in the City of Temple Terrace, which is Greco Middle School, and if you do have pets, there are pet shelters within the county, and Greco is not one of those. If you have any questions, you can always call my office. I'll certainly answer any, but a lot of that information can be obtained on the city's website.
Thank you very much. Are any of the candidates coming from out of town?
I'm sorry?
Are any of the interviewees coming from out of town for Friday's meeting?
There are.
I know you don't want to postpone this, but
We'll be okay. We'll be okay.
says the man with a pontoon boat.
You know, we're taking this storm very seriously. We had conversation about it today, and we put all of our staff on notice that they need to pay attention. We gave them instructions, don't wait till the last minute to start going to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store. It's my understanding the Publix over here is already run out of water. And there's been long lines over there. I think that everyone in Temple Terrace, including me, has taken this very, very seriously. We're keeping an eye on it. We're trying to plan. I don't think that we ought to be panicking until we know a little bit, at least a couple days out, where this thing is going. So I think by Friday, when we get done with our interviews, we can conduct those interviews, get out of here, and everybody can get home safely. So, but I do think that Friday is a very important day for us in order to decide what actions we need to start making, and I know that our emergency managers are on it, and I'm certainly there to do whatever they need from me. So, and our staff is all, we're gearing up. We are not handing out sandbags. If we start handing out sandbags, it'll probably be midday, mid-morning on Thursday.
The city and the county are both doing it already, so.
I'm sorry?
City and the county, as they have in the past, are already doing it, so.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but they are.
I mean, I know. I mean, I don't, I'm very familiar with storms. I don't want to panic everybody, but there's no reason to panic with getting sandbags on Tuesday for a storm that may not be here on Saturday.
I agree.
I mean, we've got plenty sand, we've got plenty bags, we've got plenty manpower. We'll get into whatever mode we need to come Thursday. So.
A couple of questions I have is, number one, can somebody reach out to Swift Mud and say, drain the river? Seriously,
You know-
I mean, it's at a very high level right now.
You know, I meant to
If
ask
you get a storm,
is the river high?
they know she
Yes.
lives on the river, and,
Okay.
I mean,
They're-
it's high.
Yes.
They have been dumping water over the dam and
Our
the bypass
expert in the back
for
Well,
says
days.
that
they
it's
need
going
to,
down.
they need to dump more, because you get
Well, I
a storm
tell you,
like that, and
yeah.
you're gonna have major flooding in your
The
city.
bypass is flowing like crazy, like I've never seen it. So,
I've seen the river flow, and it's not flowing as fast as I've seen it in the past.
Yeah.
So if they control, the problem is, well, I shouldn't say it that way. Tampa has control over the dam.
Correct.
And Swift Mud needs to
we'll
decide who
we'll address
has, what's more important.
Yeah.
Because I would tell you, when it starts flooding, Tampa is not gonna lower that dam, because on high tides and low tides, the lower part of the dam in Tampa is gonna be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So right now is the time to start lowering that river, because it's pretty high right now. And the slightest bit of storm or rain, you're gonna have major problems on your hands.
You have contact information with Swift Mud? Okay.
And just so I can.
We'll do that.
Touch on that also, and I know Councilmember Ross is in here, sits on the Riverwatch Task Force, but before they've had that conversation with Swift Mud, and once it gets to a certain height, they begin doing a whole bunch of different locks and channels that close and open, aside from just the dam issue and them contacting the dam. So it gets to a certain level, they start blocking water from coming into the upper Hillsborough River. They start diverting it off to the bypass canal, and they start coordinating with the dam operator at Tampa to start letting more water over there. Now, I never know what they're gonna do, but
It's all,
they're
you know,
supposed to all work
I agree.
together, and
I
they're
get
supposed,
it.
there's certain locks that are north of Fowler Avenue that are supposed to be closed down to stop water from coming in. There's certain other ones that are supposed to be opened up to let more water flow and divert off of our river. Once it gets to, I can't remember the height
Yeah.
right now.
I get it. I just, when I sat on the riverboard,
Yeah.
it's very political, because when they close the dam at 75, then Flatwoods begins to flood, which is right next to New Tampa, so there's a whole nother side of that equation. But right now, the easiest way is to lower that dam at 40th Street, the Tampa Dam, so that water can get out of here, because it's still flowing. I mean, everything upriver is flowing down this way, and it's not pretty. You get a lot of rain, you're gonna have, your flooding's gonna be your biggest problem. And after we've seen what we've seen on TV, anything's possible. I hate to say that, but this thing is of concern.
Well, I can assure you, I've never seen the bypass flowing like it's flowing. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but we'll certainly, Chief will reach out to Swiftmud and his contacts in Tampa, and we'll certainly address it. Valid point.
The other idea, and I hadn't thought of this until I saw Chief Kip sitting here, what is the thought of putting spigots at some of our fire hydrants? Because nobody has water. Home Depot, Walmart, Sam's, nobody has water. And for people in the city who want to go up, if you put, like where they have construction sites, limit, you can only fill up gallons, so people don't come up with big, giant trucks.
You're killing me.
No, I'm not killing you. I
That's
mean,
water, that's money that you get.
Well, you know what? People
Is that
pay taxes
potable
for a
water?
reason in our city, and
I'm
people cannot
I'm
get water.
teasing. It's not a bad idea.
When I saw him, I thought of fire hydrant for whatever reason, and I just thought that, because I've had a lot of calls today from folks saying, water's nowhere.
But
And
it's
Well,
coming.
we've
It's
got,
coming.
just a thought, I
well,
mean,
we've got some of those valves available, and we can put one here at City Hall and have somebody man it.
it's just a
I mean,
thought where
not a bad
people in our
idea.
community could be made aware of it. And, I mean, again, they're filling up gallons at a time, and it's an emergency issue. I'm not asking them to come fill up a big giant water truck.
Well,
or-
they do it with water trucks all the time.
Well, I'm
so-
sure, but I think you put a little sign there saying gallons only or something,
Well,
so,
let me-
but just a thought.
Let me address that. I've been involved in 2 disaster reliefs, one in, both in Georgia, actually, after floods, giving out water. And it's okay to do that, but you better have some police officers there as well, because it can get out of,
It can get nasty.
it can get nasty really quick. And I've seen it.
Well, the manager of Publix assured me today that water is on the way.
I hope so.
It's Tuesday,
Yeah.
so
I'm
that's
sure
what he
that,
said.
uh,
Every day, I think they expect water to arrive.
So every council member should now get out that 8-inch loose leaf binder that they got when they first took the job that says,
Oh, that
what
one.
did the, it's comprehensive emergency management planning booklet.
Oh, yeah,
And-
read it
And quick
tonight.
to read through of that.
Read it tonight.
If you haven't had to read it already.
I just have one more question. Could you tell me the name of the Facebook page? Because there seems to be more than one City of Temple Terrace Facebook page. So tell me so that everybody on TV land knows where to look for this information.
Yes, there are
Yes,
other pages out there,
Right.
but there is only one official City
Okay.
of Temple Terrace Facebook page. And it's marqued right on the front. This is the official City of Temple Terrace Facebook
and
page.
it goes by City of Temple Terrace? Okay, because I think there's another one that says City.
There's actually a few
Right,
out there,
okay.
but
All right.
we have identified those.
Yeah, they're old.
And there are some out there that were started years ago that are no longer maintained. They were started by various civic groups, social organizations, and we do not have any rights to those pages, so we can't control those. But there is only one official page, and it's
Okay.
clearly marqued as the official page.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Is there any other business to come before council?
One other thing, and then I'll be quiet.
Mr. Stevenson.
I know that all of my staff was given instructions to work this weekend on their budgets. I want to thank them. Most of them fed me back information that was very useful for us to kind of get this thing cleaned up. Mr. Schischler, who spent about a day and a half in here with me as a second pair of eyes, certainly helped. and I appreciate his efforts. They were very helpful. With that, I want to thank all my staff for all that they've done here to get us through this point. We've got another reading to go through, but hopefully that moves forward and we get our business going so that we can start October 1. So, thank you,
Hopefully,
sir.
everyone will have a safe couple days coming up here and a safe
Amen.
week as we see everyone back here. Seeing no further business to come before council, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening.
Really? Well, you don't have to talk.